This is the brief on custom event and live streaming platform development. So we're looking at how full-stack custom software outfits, the ones really deep in tech like .NET and C#, are helping folks ditch those limiting subscriptions and actually build their own event platforms tailored just for them. First off, you get total control over your brand and how everything looks and feels. Forget generic templates. There's usually a super easy-to-use layout editor in the admin area, right? So you can design event pages exactly how you want them. Custom backgrounds, banners, specific landing page sections, agendas. It all matches your style. Second, managing the nitty-gritty stuff, way easier with a central content management system. You can set up all sorts of events, maybe a hybrid conference or some training sessions. Plus, you can gather exactly the attendee info you need, like dietary stuff or accessibility needs. And importantly, the platform handles a lot automatically. Think custom registration flows, digital check-ins, and even sending out branded emails for confirmations and follow-ups. Finally, these platforms pack some serious tech for streaming, making money, and security. You can stream right from a built-in browser studio or hook up Pro Tools like OBS or VMAX using RTMP. That's the standard for live video. They often support streaming to multiple places like YouTube and LinkedIn at once. And yeah, they integrate things like ticketing and paywalls, taking different currencies. It's all built securely, using stuff like .NET, C#, microservices for scaling, running on reliable cloud platforms like Azure or AWS. Basically, owning your platform means your data's safe, you control the cash flow, and you get to define exactly how your digital experiences work.
Welcome to The Debate. Our discussion today really cuts right to the heart of digital strategy for large enterprises. We're talking about the decision to invest, significant capital and resources into fully customized proprietary digital platforms, specifically for mission-critical functions, things like high-stakes event management and global live streaming.
Right. And the central question, I think, that emerges from the material is pretty stark. Does the promise of, let's say, ultimate control, that precise feature tailoring, and the true competitive scalability that you get from full-stack custom development, particularly using these enterprise-grade architectures like .NET, C#, microservices, the kind championed by firms like Deventure.co, does that actually justify the, frankly, steep complexity and the continuous organizational commitment you need to really own and sustain such a platform?
And I'll argue, quite firmly actually, that for organizations truly aiming for strategic scale and complete market differentiation, that investment is essential. Real brand integrity, genuine competitive advantage, these are only achievable, I believe, through the level of control and, yes, the specialized engineering that's inherent in these custom-built owned platforms.
See, I come at it from a slightly different angle. While, the concept of ownership is compelling, no doubt, I contend that the reliance on these highly complex, very specialized enterprise technologies like the .NET C# stack and distributed microservices you mentioned, it creates this colossal operational overhead, a huge resource drain. And frankly, this burden, it can only really be sustained by a tiny fraction of organizations. For almost everyone else, that supposed competitive ownership advantage, it often ends up being illusory, just because they can't realistically staff or manage a platform built that way.
That's an interesting point, but I think maybe you're focusing heavily on the cost without really factoring in the strategic necessity. The core value presented, certainly in the source material, is about future-proofing your business. When you build a proprietary platform, you ensure your organization, you don't subscribe to a third-party event solution. It's about achieving total control over the branding, the critical data you capture, the revenue streams, and maybe most importantly, the development roadmap itself. And this requirement for absolute control, that's precisely why the full stack approach, using secure, high-performance tech like .NET and C#, it becomes non-negotiable. You deploy it on hyperscale environments, Azure, AWS, guaranteeing data security, stability. This kind of foundational architecture, often built, as the source notes, leveraging the deep collective experience of teams, spanning more than 2 decades in enterprise software, That's the only way these platforms can reliably handle, say, large audiences without compromise. We're talking events that need to reach millions, maybe across continents, securely. And beyond just scale, it's the ability to completely tailor every feature, from the visual stuff like a user-friendly layout editor for event pages, right down to complex custom registration workflows, approvals, ticketing, your own monetization via paywalls, multiple currencies. That provides an operational efficiency that, let's face it, off-the-shelf SaaS just can't match.
I'm sorry, but I don't buy that the advantage of ownership truly outweighs that long-term maintenance burden for the vast majority of organizations. Let's look closely at the architecture you mentioned. The necessary dependence on specialized, high-performance tech, building on .NET, C#, microservices, that's the source of the problem, as I see it. This implies a massive internal infrastructure commitment and a continuous maintenance commitment that the client organization is now entirely responsible for.
Well, responsible, yes, but also in control.
Okay, but when the source highlights the development partner's collective experience of the team spanning more than 2 decades, that experience isn't some added bonus. It's the minimum requirement just to get the system stood up correctly in the first place. And then, maintaining these feature-rich, high-performance products that manage really complex processes, everything from digital attendance tracking to, say, multi-streaming via RTMP, it demands continuous, deep, and frankly expensive engineering knowledge. Most businesses, they just lack this expertise internally. And hiring, then retaining talent proficient in this specific stack, enterprise-grade .NET, distributed system management, that's dramatically harder and way costlier than just staffing managers for standard SaaS tools.
But the talent manages your IP, not a vendor's.
It manages complexity you now own. And moreover, think about the sheer detail of customization you talked about, collecting specialized attendee info like dietary needs, accessibility requirements, generating real-time attendance sheets on the fly, or customizing hundreds of branded email templates. These represent points of extreme operational complexity. Now, sure, they're powerful, I grant you that. But these bespoke features, they greatly inflate the initial investment and, critically, the long-term maintenance burden, especially when you compare it to implementing standard, robust SaaS solutions that, let's be honest, handle 90% of the job efficiently. The organization is now paying a significant premium to maintain complexity at every single level.
Okay, look, I see why you think that operational complexity makes the platform seem inaccessible. But we really have to address the specific strategic trade-off here. It's enterprise stability versus that perceived accessibility. And I strongly defend the choice of the specialized stack. When you have, as mentioned, 2 decades of experience building enterprise systems, you learn that performance guarantees simply cannot be negotiable. They're table stakes.
A microservices architecture deployed on major clouds like Azure or AWS, it isn't chosen for, flair. It's chosen because it allows for resilience and horizontal scaling that monolithic SaaS platforms often, they struggle with under extreme load. For a company managing a truly global product launch or maybe a concert needing to reach millions, the stability you get by separating functions into distributed services, like having a dedicated service just for user authentication and a completely separate one for video delivery, that is the only path to truly secure enterprise-grade stability that guarantees no compromise regardless of audience size or peak demand. The back-end complexity directly buys you confidence on the front end.
Okay, I agree that the architectural choices guarantee performance. Nobody's disputing the technical capability here. But here's the business question. Does the benefit of that guaranteed, maybe even extreme, scalability justify the incredibly high barrier to entry that comes inherent in operating that microservices deployment? You just mentioned needing separate services for auth and video. So instead of one core database, the client now potentially owns, 5 specialized databases, multiple deployment pipelines. They need specialized DevSecOps teams just to monitor the communication between services. This level of infrastructure complexity, it might completely negate the promised effortless event management for the actual event organizers, because the operational burden just gets shifted, right? From managing a SaaS interface to managing what is essentially a world-class distributed engineering environment.
But that environment is theirs.
Theirs to maintain. Let's dig into this idea of complete control, because you're right, that's the primary driver for these custom builds. While the client technically owns the intellectual property, are they truly independent? They are, initially at least, and maybe perpetually, reliant on that very specialized full-stack engineering partner, the one with the 2 decades of experience you keep mentioning, required to build, update, and evolve the product. So, does achieving full control over the roadmap and the data simply trade the reliance on a SaaS vendor's feature set for reliance on a highly specialized, extremely expensive custom development partner for all the continuous upkeep and future feature evolution? You've arguably just swapped one kind of lock-in for another, potentially much more expensive one.
That's a compelling challenge, I'll give you that. But the reliance is fundamentally strategically different. You move from reliance on a vendor who dictates your market strategy through their feature roadmap to reliance on an engineering partner who provides the execution for your company's own proprietary roadmap. The crucial distinction, and it's massive, is IP and data ownership. And this has a huge impact on market valuation, by the way.
Okay.
The client controls the revenue engine, the underlying technical architecture. More importantly, the platform integrates core-owned features like built-in analytics. These provide proprietary insights into attendee participation, engagement levels, viewer retention, and financial performance. What this means is you are continuously feeding your business intelligence engine with data that your competitors, who are likely relying on segmented, maybe limited, third-party reporting, simply do not possess. This allows for rapid, proprietary iteration and optimization, and that is a genuine source of competitive advantage in the market. It justifies the higher continuous engineering expense. You're essentially paying for strategic agility, not just maintenance.
I agree that the data ownership provides a significant advantage, especially around proprietary BI. That's fair. But that distinction, it leads directly back to the core problem I see: feature tailoring versus cost efficiency and speed. You emphasize that customization is the whole point, having personalized interactions, these detailed registration forms, collecting highly specific data, amplified brand visibility with custom overlays, sponsor placements, and so on.
Precisely. And these aren't just minor amenity features. They are crucial for creating high-impact, often revenue-generating experiences. Think about a concert that reaches millions, that requires complex tiered ticketing, or maybe a regulated hybrid conference that needs very specific approval workflows baked in. The ability to manage your entire event calendar, whether it's a high-level hybrid conference, a specific training series, and a major music festival, all from one central unified CMS that's built precisely for your workflow. Well, that's the very definition of operational efficiency tailored to specific, often complex organizational needs.
I acknowledge the power of specific features, like, sure, the ability to multi-stream or connect professional broadcasting tools via RTMP or handle multiple international currencies simultaneously. These are clearly features designed by a team like Deventure's with deep enterprise experience. But let's be realistic for a moment. For organizations that are not currently juggling those 3 extreme use cases you listed, hybrid conferences, intensive training, and massive music festivals, are these highly specialized core capabilities not just excessive? Remember, these features are built upon that enormous, high-performance base architecture, the .NET C# microservices, which carries an immense baseline cost. So to gain the advantage of, say, custom dietary intake forms, you first have to pay the immense sunk costs of deploying and maintaining enterprise-grade infrastructure. It sounds an awful lot like massive over-engineering for the average user who's maybe just looking for slightly more control than basic SaaS offers.
I'm not quite convinced by that line of reasoning, mainly because the investment is inherently strategic. It's focused on future capacity. The decades of engineering experience aren't just about handling today's complexity, they are about building a foundation that allows for seamless, secure growth tomorrow.
When the platform handles everything from the branded visual experience right through to sophisticated revenue collection and detailed post-event analytics, the organization is investing in their future capacity to host events of literally any size, securely and reliably, without ever hitting some hard technical ceiling imposed by a third-party vendor. It's like you buy the Ferrari so that when you do need to drive 200 miles per hour, you actually can. You don't wait until you need that speed to suddenly start building the car. And this circles back, again, to the technical expertise. A full-stack custom platform built using robust enterprise technology like .NET is designed for longevity. The potentially higher initial cost mitigates the almost certain need for a complete, very costly technical overhaul down the line, simply because the architecture is inherently robust and modular, unlike, perhaps, many solutions built more quickly on less specialized, maybe less scalable stacks.
Okay, I hear your emphasis on strategic growth and future-proofing, and I do respect the stability that architecture provides. However, I really must restate my core concern. While the promise of complete ownership and these highly specialized features, including complex monetization, the whole full-stack architecture built on .NET and C#, while it's compelling on paper, the commitment to actually building and then maintaining such an enterprise-grade system, it has to be viewed very soberly. The required organizational resources for recruiting, for training, for retaining specialized long-term support staff, that's the key friction point for me. For many businesses, that complexity isn't strategic freedom. It's just an unnecessary financial anchor.
And I'll firmly reaffirm my position. For businesses genuinely focused on commanding market share and achieving strategic growth, having a platform fully tailored to the brand, controlling the entire user experience, the revenue streams, the proprietary data, and the future roadmap, that is the only viable long-term solution I see that provides enduring competitive advantage. The deep engineering expertise provided by partners isn't merely a cost of maintenance. It is the essential foundation that enables the strategic freedom and the level of security required for truly global, uncompromised operations.
Well, our exchange, I think, successfully underscores the fundamental trade-off that executives really have to grapple with here. It's that maximal strategic control afforded by specialized custom enterprise software versus the considerable scale of resource investment and organizational complexity that's necessary to support that freedom.
Absolutely. The decision really hinges entirely on whether the organization's strategic vision genuinely demands the uncompromised performance, the proprietary data insights, and the deep brand customization that arguably only full ownership of this specific caliber can truly provide.
Indeed. And there is certainly much more to explore within this material, particularly regarding how organizations might successfully transition their internal teams to manage systems of this specific high-end complexity effectively over the long term. That's a whole other challenge.
When you think about it, massive conferences, global product launches, exclusive concerts, these are the experiences that really connect us. And behind every single one of them, there's technology. But what if that tech wasn't just some tool you rented for the weekend, but an actual asset you owned? That one little shift in perspective, well, it changes absolutely everything. So let's dive in and see what that really means. So let me ask you this. When you host your big event, are you building your brand, or are you kind of just building someone else's? Are you stuck conforming to their layout, their features, their rules? It's a super common frustration for so many organizers who just want to deliver an experience that feels truly unique. And this slide, wow, it just lays out the difference so clearly. On one side, you have the world of rented platforms. You know the deal. Generic branding, data that isn't really yours, and a rulebook you definitely didn't write. But then you look at the owned side. It's your brand front and center. It's your data giving you all the insights, and probably most important, it's your rules. Which brings us right to this really powerful question from our source material over at Deventure.co. This isn't just about running an event anymore. Nope, it's about owning the entire digital world around it. It's a huge shift from being a tenant in someone else's building to being the architect of your own. Okay, so how does this whole ownership thing actually work in the real world? Well, let's start with the first thing everyone sees. Creating an experience that is unmistakably 100% yours. This is where you get to take complete control of the look and feel. We're talking about a super user-friendly layout editor that lets you drag, drop, and structure everything just how you want it.
You can upload your own custom backgrounds and banners, handpick exactly what shows up on your landing page, and even build personalized agendas for different attendees. Every single pixel screams your brand. But listen, a beautiful-looking event is only half the story, right? The real magic, the real power comes from what's happening behind the scenes. And that's where you get to manage everything effortlessly from one single central command center. And the workflow is just brilliantly simple. First, you collect all the info you need with custom forms, anything from speaker bios to attendee preferences. Then, step 2, you track everything as it happens with digital check-ins and attendance sheets that are generated for you. And finally, you automate all your communication with beautiful branded emails for confirmations, reminders, and follow-ups. It's your entire event, all managed from one place. In today's world, an event just isn't confined to a single room anymore. It needs to reach a global audience. And that's where having a powerful integrated live streaming capability is an absolute game changer. And check out the flexibility you get here. You could go live directly from your web browser for a quick and easy stream. Or if you want to get fancy, you can plug in professional tools like OBS or vMix for a really high-end production. You can even multi-stream to all your socials, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all at once, and slap on studio-quality branding like logos and overlays to give it that polished, professional look. Okay, so all this control and global reach is fantastic, but owning your platform goes way beyond just the logistics. It's about unlocking real strategic value. It's about engaging your audience on a much deeper level, creating new ways to make money, and actually understanding what's working and what's not. This slide just lays it all out so perfectly. For engagement, you get tools like live chat, polls, and Q&A sessions to really make the experience interactive and fun. For monetization, you can sell tickets, you can put premium content behind a paywall, and you can even accept different currencies. And then there's the analytics, where you get these deep insights into everything from how long people are watching to your financial performance, which helps you make way smarter decisions next time. Of course, all of these incredible features need to be supported by technology that won't let you down, especially when you have thousands of people counting on it. So that brings us to what this is all built on. And this part is so key. A custom platform has to be built on a secure enterprise-grade foundation. We're talking a modern tech stack like .NET and C# with a microservices architecture running on rock-solid cloud infrastructure like Azure or AWS. What that really means is your platform is built to scale and can handle massive audiences without even breaking a sweat. And that brings us right back to the most important idea in all of this. This is not another monthly subscription you're paying to some third-party service. This is an asset. You own the platform, you own the data, you own the future of your events. Ultimately, what this all comes down to is a partnership. You bring the vision for what your perfect event experience should be, and a full stack development partner like Deventure.co brings that deep engineering expertise to actually build it and make your vision a reality. So I guess that just leaves us with one final big question. Once you're free from the limits of rented software and you have the power to build literally anything you can imagine, what kind of powerful, unforgettable experience are you going to build?